Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining. Got 1 p.m. on the dot, so I want to go ahead and get started. Be mindful of everyone's time, respectful of everybody's time. All right. In case you've not met me before, my name is Cesar Rivas. I am the sales executive for Sound POS. I've been working now with the system for about 3 years, and very excited to provide you with this training session today. Before we get started, just wanted to go over some of these housekeeping items. So the first thing is there's a section under the Zoom app labeled Q&A. Please write any questions you may have there. I'm going to go ahead and wait until the end of the session to respond those. But please feel free to, anytime that you have a question, go ahead and put them on there. I'll be able to keep a track on that, a view on those, and be able to respond. Maybe I will respond through the session or not, but please feel free to ask any question that you may have. All right. We're going to break on the hour. So at 2 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to go ahead and break for about 5 minutes. The session could run up to 2 hours. Normally it's been just a little bit over maybe an hour 15, an hour and a half. But it also depends on how many questions you have as well. So again, I encourage you to ask all the questions you may have. Been working with the system for 3 years, so I pretty much know a lot of things about the system. If you miss any part of the session, you can't stay the whole session. This session is being recorded, as all the previous sessions have been recorded in the past. And you're going to be able to find those recordings if you go to our YouTube channel, just Sound Payments. And not only that, the recording for the session, but I encourage you to watch the short videos. There's a section in YouTube labeled Shorts. Very interesting, very short, maybe 1-minute videos that talks about certain features and things like that and functionalities. I think you're going to find very useful. I just want to clarify, this is a session to learn mostly the operation of Sound POS, not so much the configuration, what we call boarding. We are going to look at, some of the configuration, of course, things like system components, and I'll show you the agenda in a second. But it's not so much, how to configure the system or how to troubleshoot it. We do have some resources for that, which I want to share with you. All right. So the first resource, of course, is our 24/7 tech support. You've got the number there on the screen, 888-263-5661. They're available for any time, any questions that you may have, any troubleshooting you want to do. Okay. We also have an email for support, to support@soundpayments.com. Of course, we also have a Sound POS user guide. You should have all received it when you signed up for the session. If you didn't, please comment on the QA section, and I'll make sure that you receive it at the end of the session. We also provide, in addition to this monthly group training, which is of course at no cost, and we normally do these on the second Wednesday of every month. So that's why today, which is a somber day, for September 11th, we're holding it today. And you can see the rest of them that are going to be held for the rest of the year, and we'll put up next year's calendar very soon. All right. We also do offer individual paid training. So if you're interested as well, you go to our Sound Payments website and click on Sound POS at the top. You're going to see there's going to be a link for you to contact your reseller, and they can sign you up for the paid training as well. All right. So first thing I want to start off with is talking a little bit about the agenda, what we're going to be looking at today. So we're going to first of all look at the system components, both the hardware and the software components that you have access to. Then we're going to go into the initial configuration. Like I said, it's not really meant to configure your POS, but there's got to be some configuration conversation. And then within that configuration, we'll be looking at some of the functionalities as well. We're going to look also at discounts and pricing, the way that you can provide discounts. The system has several options, or the way that you can modify pricing for your inventory. The system has several options to do that as well. Then I'm going to share with you the customer's database. Our system, if you're not aware, has a customer's database, which stores all the customers' personal information. And it's got a couple of features built in. If you do already have an existing database, and you're new to Sound POS, and you're coming from another POS, and you're able to export your database in that POS, you'll be able to actually import it into our system as well. We have a template for that. We're also going to be looking at the reports. You've got multiple reports. You've got some reports that are specific to the terminals, and then some reports that are on the web portal which is one of the components I'll be discussing later on. And then we're going to finish things up with actually going to the sales screen, looking at the different functionalities. And I'm actually going to conduct a sale so you can see the different options that you have available and the way that you're going to be able to promote your products or to sell your products in terms of options and things like that. All right. All right. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about the parts of the terminal, right? So you've got, of course, your hardware for the device, and right now you're probably utilizing a PAX device. Just FYI, we are expanding into other manufacturers as well, but for the most part, the PAX devices come with your customer-facing screen. You've also got a payment screen on the backside. Depending on the unit that you have, you may actually have a secondary customer-facing screen that you can utilize for marketing purposes. You can actually upload some images on there when it's in idle mode, or you can also, whenever you're ringing somebody up, upload some banners. Let me show you what that looks like real quick here. All right, so this is kind of a picture that I just took so you can see what the banners look like. So if you do have the E800, which is again the unit that's got, like, on the backside has two screens, the customer would be seeing something like this on the screen. So you've got your payment device on the top, which comes with the E700 as well, E500, E600, and then on the bottom you got the screen that will actually will rotate the images as the machine is in idle mode. And then once you're ready to actually ring somebody up and you're ringing them up, you can also upload these banners on the side. You got 5 different banners that you can upload, and they're going to be again rotating as the item is being rung up. Okay. In addition to of course the terminal itself, you may be attaching a cash drawer or a scanner. Okay. And the terminals all come, as I said, with a built-in printer. But you can also add some additional printers, and I'll talk to you about that in a few minutes. If you have a handheld unit like the A920, for example, that unit has a full version of the POS as well, but it doesn't have dual screens. Obviously, it fits in the palm of your hand. So that's really, when it's a portable unit, we don't offer that option for the customer facing screen. You're going to be sharing the screen. But again, I just want to reiterate that for the handheld units, you do have a full version of the POS, same thing that you would have on the countertop. Okay. You can also, like I said, add the cash drawer, the scanner as additional hardware. We're in the process right now of adding a scale. If you do have a type of business that requires scale, you can still use our POS currently the way that it's set up for sales by weight, but you'd have to manually input what that weight would be. But within the next 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, you should see if you have the need, the optional integration of a scale. And we're also going to be adding an ID scanner. So currently you can add I think it's called a D2 scanner, which is your regular scanner for, product barcodes and things like that. But we are also going to be offering, as an optional feature, if you do sell any restricted H products, we are going to be offering an ID scanner as well. Okay, so those are going to be all additional hardware. In addition, of course, to the hardware itself, you also have a web portal. Okay, so let me share that with you real quick. You may have become familiar with it, and I apologize. Our system, for security purposes, tends to knock me out every once in a while. So I'm going to log into a web portal for the store that we're going to be using today. Okay. So this is one of the other resources that you have available. You can manage on the back end. And remember, a web portal is not an app. It's actually browser based. So if you have a computer, you have a tablet, if you have a smartphone, the support browsers, you're going to be able to access this information on any one of those devices. You can do almost anything you would do on the terminal on this web portal, with the exception of running a sale and a couple of other things. And as a matter of fact, there are some things you can do in the web portal that are probably going to be more convenient and easier to handle on that side. And then the last thing, of course, is the actual POS software. And again, I'm going to have to be signing in and out just because for security purposes, it normally logs me out within a few minutes. But the POS itself, what I want to show you on here is it's important that you stay updated with the current version. And again, your reseller should be updating you automatically. If he's not, please reach out to them. But let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm using a countertop unit now, the E700. So some of you may be utilizing the similar unit. Let me go ahead and accept the connection on the terminal itself. But I just want to show you on here where you can verify the model or the version rather of the POS that you're using. Let me go ahead and zoom in a little more. All right, so I'm going to log into the POS system here. Okay, and what you want to do is you want to go to settings and go to about. Okay, the latest version 2.0.11, we strongly recommend you update to that. You're going to see that the POS is much quicker in the response time as far as you tapping on the screen and things like that. All right, so verify what version you have. If you don't have the latest version, again, I would encourage you to talk to your reseller to do the update for that version. All right, they're going to be managing that for you. Okay, all right. So that's when it comes to configuration and your initial components. That's pretty much it. All right. So let's go into the store portal. All right. I want to talk about some initial configuration. So in terms of taxes, one of the first things you want to do, of course, is set up your taxes so that you're charging the appropriate tax for the products. And the way that our taxes are structured is you've got two different components for the taxes. You got tax rates, which would be, your local, your state, federal. If you have any additional taxes like alcohol, tobacco, maybe you've got, luxury tax, depending on what product or services you provide. You're going to create specific rates on this page where it says tax rates. It's very easy to do. I mean, if you can it normally comes with three tax rates on here. You'll see tax rate 1, tax rate 2, tax rate 3, where you can actually change the label for each one of those. And then you can add more tax rates. It's unlimited, really. But what you want to do in here is you want to input what the percentage is and what you're going to call that tax rate. Okay. And after you actually gather the desired number of tax rates, then you're actually going to group those in tax categories. And again, you may have an unlimited number of categories. You do want to establish what your default is so that when you're adding new products and things like that, they'll actually be charged the appropriate default tax rate. But you may have some items that have a different tax rate, so you're going to use a different tax category. Now, the tax category is assigned at the individual product level. And the way you configure it, just to show you what the tax standard, how that looks, you're going to just activate whatever tax rates you want to be included in that tax category. You can change the order in which they're charged. You can even configure it so that you're taxing on the previous tax amount as well. Okay. And please don't forget to place a name on the tax category. Okay. So that's how you would configure your taxes initially. And like I said, you're going to see that at the individual product level is where you're actually going to configure that. Now, for this session, I always like to show the option to configure your POS on the POS itself. So this is on the web portal, right, where you can configure your tax rates, but you can actually go to the POS and configure your tax rates there. Okay. So you go to inventory right here on the right hand side if you have a countertop unit, and then you're going to see you've got your tax rates here, pretty much similar to what you saw on the back end. And then you get your tax categories here. Okay. So you have two options in which you can configure your taxes for your products, whether it be on the web portal or whether it be on the actual terminal. All right. All right. And again, I encourage you, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A section of the Zoom app. All right. Next topic I want to cover is your employees and their roles, and a couple of things about that. All right. So the system allows you to restrict access to functionality or functionalities to your different employees. The way that you do that is you're going to create different employee roles. So for this particular store, I've got all of these roles created. So let's go into one of these roles just so you can see how I can configure that. So placing a check mark on any one of these will include these functions under that profile, and you can drill down and see more related functions like your reports. Okay, once you create your tax your user role, okay, and again you need to name it and save it, then you're actually going to create an employee and assign a specific role for that. So these are all the employees that I've got listed under this store, and these are the different roles that they actually occupy on here. Okay. You can also utilize the same screen to manage, for example, time cards, Remember that the system does have a time card feature, which you can utilize to manage, how many hours are worked, breaks taken, and so forth. And then you can export your time card at the end of that payroll. System will give you options to do the last 7 days, 30 days, 90 days. You can also customize what the time frame is going to be that you're looking at. Okay, and you can see the individual time cards if you just click on the actual time card view. I don't have a lot of activity here. This is a demo account, so there's not actually a lot of employee activities here. The other thing about the employees is that if you are using a scanner for your products, your employees can also clock in or log in using the scanner. Okay, you can generate your barcodes here. It'll create a PDF file with all the barcodes, which then you can print onto a label and stick it onto a badge if you like. Okay. And I'll show you how to do that on the terminal as well. The other thing I want to show you is, when you actually create a profile, okay, you could require them to clock in before they have access to the POS itself. Okay, and this is maybe you want an employee, you want to make sure that your employees don't forget to clock in as they come in, and then you can set that up. Hour wage, tax rate, those are really more optional features. The system doesn't really do much with that anyway. And we know that, you got different tax rates depending on the state that you live in. You may actually have federal income tax or not. So we recommend, if managing the actual payroll and the calculations of the payroll, to utilize a program that's going to be specialized in that. Adding the birthday is also optional. But if you do have any restricted age products and somebody's trying to sell any one of those products without having a birthday registered on the system won't allow them to sell the product. So you want to make sure that you add it on there if you are going to be selling restricted age products, and if they actually want to also do that. You can also modify the barcode for the employee. You want to generate a new barcode on here. Okay. So just like I did with the previous function. No, sorry. Like I said, this thing is going to kick me out a couple of times here. I want to show you on the back end how you can also create the different profiles and then add the different employees. All right, so give me 1 second while I go ahead and accept the invitation. Zoom in a little more here. All right, so you're going to create the profile and add the employee here under the maintenance function. Okay, you got your employee roles. Now, personally, I like the layout here a little better than I do on the web portal. Okay, simply because you have all your sales functions under this basic tab, and then all the backend stuff is under the authority tab. And you can still expand for each one of them, to see what items you've got and so forth. All right. So again, you can create the role either on the backend on the web portal, or you can create it on here. And the same thing, you can then add the user here. Okay. Now, all of our terminals come with cameras. So if you wanted to add your employee's picture, you can actually just take a picture with the actual terminal and add it on here in case you want to do that. But you kind of have the same features that you saw on the other hand, right? On the back end, so you can activate, need to clock in, logging in, and just to show you a little bit of how restrictive you can be. All right. I'm going to log out. I was logged in as the admin. I'm going to log out, and I'm going to log in now as the person who runs the inventory. And what I did with this individual's profile is I didn't give him any sales functions. As a matter of fact, you can be so restrictive that if you go to reports, I only give this individual the inventory report, and that's it for this profile. And on our system, you are able to add products, but I even restricted that ability. If you go to the products function here, normally you have an add button here at the top. So I've even restricted that function from this individual, so they can't sell or they can't even add products, just manage the existing inventory. I'm going to log out of here. I want you to see a second profile. I'm going to now log in as the person who runs the cash drawer. Now, for this individual, I do require them to clock in. So I just want you to see what that interaction looks like. I'm going to clock in here. So front counter, I'm clocked in. Perfect. But now you can see a whole set of different functions. I do have a sales function. And if I go to reports, I no longer have an inventory report. I have a report that pertains more to sales, okay, like my transaction details. Now, keep in mind that when you look at transaction details, you're only going to be looking at the transactions that are run on this terminal in this screen. You do have access to all transactions, and I'll show you in a different screen on any terminal. But if you're looking at the actual reporting, it's going to report only for this machine And if you want to view all your terminals, if you got multiple terminals, then you would do that on the back end and export the transaction report on the web portal. All right, that does include everything. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and log out of here. I'm going to log back in as the admin. It asked me to clock out because I'm clocked in. I'm going to log back in as the admin. I just want to show you, I mentioned that for the inventory individual, I didn't allow them to add products. Just want to show you what the products screen normally looks like without any restriction. You normally have this add button that allows you to add new inventory. And if you go to the reporting, look at all the reports that are actually available on the terminal. Okay. Now, as the admin, I have unlimited access to the report. So these are all the reports that are available here. Okay. All right. So that's with regards to employees, employee management, and the type card and the time card. All right. The next component I want to talk about is your receipts. Okay. Our system allows you to actually customize your receipts. If you go to POS on the web portal, and again, you can do it also on the terminal, but I like doing it here a little better, and I'll show you why. Okay. This is the receipt that I've got configured for the store. If you're going to add a logo to your receipt, which it allows you to, and of course, this is a color logo, but the printer is black and white, so it'll actually come out in black and white. And you'll see a receipt in a minute. I'll share it with you. But if you are going to add a logo to your receipts, I feel it's a little easier to do it on the back end than to do it on the terminal. On the terminal, you have to get a USB drive connected. You have to search for the logo for the file. So I think it's a little easier here. Everything else, though, that's here, you can also configure it very easily on the terminal. Okay, let me show you that real quick. So we go to the terminal, you're going to go to settings, you're going to go to receipt setup, and boom, you can modify it there. Like I said, the only tricky part is the logo. Okay, uploading the logo, because again, the terminal, you would have to bring it in, bring the file in, and all that stuff. I think if you're not going to add a logo, really the configuration is about the same, whether you do it here or if you do it on the back end. But if you are going to add a logo, then I would say, yeah, probably on the back end, you're going to be better off doing that. All right. And just so you can see what that looks like, let me show you here. Whenever we email a receipt, sorry about that, we actually email a PDF file of the receipt. We don't email a link. Let me just go back a couple of months, just pull up any transaction so you can see the receipt. All right. So we don't just, again, email a link. We actually email a file similar to this. There we go. So you can see what the actual receipt looks like. See? Let me zoom out so you can see it a little better here. Okay. So this is how I configure the receipts. Okay. All right. So I wanted to show you that. Okay. Up next, let's talk about your product catalog and inventory. Okay. So for that, we're gonna really focus more on the back end, on the web portal. Okay. Again, it's a lot easier to manage here. I mentioned that the customer database, you're able to import your customer database. If you have an existing POS with your inventory created on that POS, and that system allows you to export your inventory, whether it be in Excel or any other comma-separated value file, you're going to be able to import it onto here. There's a couple of options, actually. The first one is just use a template, and then you can configure it or modify it so that it fits this. So if you've got an Excel file with your old POS, you would just take this file and kind of maybe copy some of the information on here. So let me show you what the file looks like. Now we've got two of them, as you can see, the simple and the complex template. Really, the biggest difference between the two is that simple template only includes the actual products, the price, SKUs, and things like that. But the complex template, in addition to the products, if you're using attributes, which are unique modifiers like a size or a color or a combination of those, it'll actually include the attributes and their values and combinations. Okay, so let me show you a complex template with data, which includes a simple plus the attributes. This is for an Asian quick serve restaurant. Pull it onto that screen here. Okay. All right, and so you can see here, let me zoom out. Okay. You can see all the fields that are normally included in here. Okay, you can even put a picture on the Excel file, and it'll upload it as well. But then, like I said, you got the attributes, right? So this is fried tofu. Okay. What are the attributes for fried tofu? Well, they come either with dressing or with rice, and you've got the different options as far as, what kind of rice and what kind of dressing. But then you got to do their combinations for those different attributes, right? So, appetizers, choose your dressing, fried rice, and so forth. This is where you actually have that information. Okay. All right. So that's one option to modify the template so that you bring your data and then just copy and paste on there. The other option is, and this is something you would need to do for your reseller, is that they can create a mapping template. Okay. If they deal with a lot of merchants that, like yourself, are converting for a specific POS onto ours, they probably already have a mapping template created. If they don't, it's not very hard to do either. But once you do that, what you do is you choose your mapping template, you choose your file that you're bringing from, and you upload it. Now there are a couple of things that you need to do if you're going to be uploading it. Okay. So for example, if you got categories, you want to upload the categories first, so that the system doesn't say, hey, these categories don't exist. If you have modifiers, you also want to upload your modifiers first and your modifier groups, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Same thing with attributes. If you actually have attributes in that file that I showed you, you need to create the attributes first here. Okay. All right. So let me show you real quick in terms of your categories here. All right. We also have a category import template in case you do have categories with your old POS. Right. You can use that. This is something that's pretty unique. You can create refund reasons. All right. So for example, I can say, I don't know, item broken. Okay. Now on our system, whenever you're running a refund, this way you'll be able to, dislike item. Why am I not saying this? Dislike item. Okay. Say successful. All right. So now you'll see that I've got item broken, this like item on here. So our system is going to be able to track the reason why you're getting refunds. But what I was getting to is whenever you run a refund on our system, it's actually going to prompt you whether you want to add the item back to inventory or not. So if it's a broken item, for example, you can say no. But if it's something that somebody dislikes and it's in good shape to sell to somebody else, you can say, let's go ahead and add it to inventory. Okay. One thing that, just going back to categories, when you do create your categories, just so you're aware, there are three options for the type of category that you're creating. This display in menu means that this category is going to be part of your sales menu. So when I pull up the sales screen, you're going to be able to see it there. Okay. If you use for entry, or you activate use for entry, there's an option that's called category entry, which is a manual entry basically. So if you have something that's not in inventory and you don't want to add it to inventory, okay, you can actually just simply create it for your manual entry. So when you're bringing up the item, at least you'll be able to categorize it, and that's going to help you tracking your reports and so forth. Okay, you can create the same categories that we would have on the sales menu if you want for manual entry, or you can create unique categories that are only manual entry and only in sales. And then the third option for creating categories for your pay in and pay out. So if any of you work, for example, with lotteries, you may want to have different categories depending on the lottery that you're utilizing, right? So for example, I've got scratch off and Mega Millions. All right. So when you're gonna do a payout, you can actually categorize which lottery the payout went to. All right. All right. So I wanted to show you that stuff there. A couple of things just around products. You have different ways in which you can manage your inventory. So these are your main fields. Of course, you got your category, which is not a requirement. You can leave it as none. Okay. But especially if you're not going to use a scanner, I'd encourage you to have categories. It's going to be easier to navigate once you're on the sales screen. You can put a description on here, which is more for your own reference than anything else. The system does have two fields for barcodes, so you can actually put either one of these or both. This is something that we reserve for a special service that we offer. It's called scan data for tobacco vendors. So it's not going to affect you if you're not a tobacco vendor and you're not signed up for that. This is where you would activate whether you want to sell by weight. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, we are going to be integrating a scale. You're going to activate this and you won't have to actually input anything. And when you activate this, obviously, and you're ringing up the product, it's going to know that it's going to read the information directly from the scale, right? But for now, you can activate it manually and then just input whatever the weight unit is. To be frank, the system allows you to put any unit there, so it doesn't have to be just weight. If you're going to be manually inputting the unit for right now, you can do a unit, for length, for volume, whatever that may be. Okay. A couple of more options on here is your POS enabled means that, it's going to be used on the POS. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be showing up on the sales menu. When would you use this? Well, maybe you run out of stock for something, but you don't want to delete it from inventory. You don't want it to show on the sales menu, or you don't want it to even be available in the POS, then you disable that. When would you use this? Well, maybe an ingredient. Let's say you sell hot dogs and, ketchup is an ingredient. You don't want it to show on the POS menu, but you want it to be enabled so you can add it. And then EBT, you need to, assign EBT availability for each product individually. So it's important that, of course, you comply with whatever your local and your state and your federal laws are regarding to the EBT and which products can be added there. Okay. Then you've got your pricing section here where you would add your price. It'll automatically calculate the tax based on whatever rate you choose. You could choose the item to be tax exempt. And then if you do have the cost, it'll calculate your profit and your gross margin here. You got multiple ways in which you can track your inventory. You can either do it by the item itself, and you would put your stock here, and then you would actually put in here like a low threshold for inventory. Okay. Or you can track inventory by your attributes. And what does that mean? Let's say that you've got to give you an example, a real world example, tobacco shop. Okay. Normally the tobacco shops, they've got vape pens, which have like one brand name comes with 20 different flavors and 3 different sizes or contents. Okay. So you may not want to enter. I mean, if you have to enter each one of those combinations, it's 20 flavors with 3 sizes, you're looking at 60 entries for that item, a single item. Okay. And they've got, I don't know, 20 different brands. So and now we're talking about what 1,200 items you're going to be inputting. But instead of doing that, you can actually say, all right, I'm going to input the main item here as a main item. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and through the modifiers, I'm going to go ahead and track inventory, and you can even manage pricing in that sense. Okay. And I'll show you another product in a second, how I do that. I actually have a vape pen on here that I'll be able to show you. All right. For the modifier section, if you are going to add modifiers, which could be ingredients or options and things like that, you can choose individual modifiers, or we also allow you to create modifier groups. Okay. It's a lot easier if you got, 10 modifiers that you assign to different products, and they're the same modifiers. If you just assign the modifier group, it'll include all 10 of those items for you. The system does support network printers. If you don't choose anything on here, it's going to use the built-in printer. But if you do add, maybe a kitchen printer, it's going to still use the built-in printer. But then for this product in particular, whenever you add it to the sales cart, then it's going to print out that product on the kitchen printer. Okay, it doesn't usually include pricing or anything like that, but it does include any, modifiers, things like that. All right. And if you do have a restricted H item, you're able to set up your global restricted H for the store under the configuration here. If you go to settings, you'll be able to do it there. But you can modify it at the individual product level for both the customer H restriction and the employee H restriction. Okay. You can add a picture on here as well. And then this is where you would have the attributes. So let me go ahead and what I did actually, just so you understand, I am actually tracking inventory by attributes on here. Okay, when I go on here, you can see that I've got size as one of the attributes, and then Jack Daniels. Well, it shouldn't be size; it should actually be type of whatever item you've got. All right, but let me show you, I think, a better example. I'm going to go ahead and go to the vape pen. Okay, let's go for cigarettes here and search. And then I've got my vape pen right here so you can see what that looks like, right? So sometimes with these vape pens, you have a barcode just for the brand, but you don't have a barcode for the combination. As you can see, I'm tracking inventory here by attributes. And I do have 2 attributes, a size and the flavor, which is typical of your vape pens. And as you can see, as I go through the different combinations of size and flavor, then I can manage inventory here. I can even manage pricing, and I can even establish a threshold, so I'm alerted when I'm below that inventory number. If I do have different barcodes for the combinations, you can add them as well, okay? But for the most part, like in this case, they don't come with separate barcodes, all right? All right, so went over products. Modifiers, as I said, modifiers are ingredients or options you can add, and you can add multiple of them. The difference between a modifier and an attribute is that an attribute is unique, right? You can only have one size or one color or one combination of size and colors, okay? Well, with modifiers, you can have, I don't know, ketchup, mustard, mayo, and you can add all of them, and you can add, 2 portions of ketchup, 3 portions of mustard, whatever you want in that sense. Okay. And then I said before, we group our modifiers just so it's a little bit easier to manage them. You do also have a template if you want to import, if you already have attributes. And like I said, normally here, what you do is you set the attribute name, but you're actually going to set the value and the combination of the value at the individual product level. All right. And again, guys, any questions? It's not meant really to, like I said, to configure, but just to give you a pretty good idea. All right. Feel free to ask any questions on the Q&A section as well. All right. All right. Next thing I want to go over is printers. So I'd mentioned that you can add network printers on here. Any printer that is that utilizes the Epson printing protocols will be compatible. Okay. So, you don't have to worry about, what brand can I get? As long as it utilizes the Epson printing protocols, then you should be compatible. Okay. Now, to be honest with you, in this case, you can set up your printers here. I mean, you can configure your built-in printer here, a label printer if you wanted to as well. Even though we're going to be working with a manufacturer where you're going to be using the label printer outside of the POS, okay? It's going to be a lot easier. Set up a network printer or a Bluetooth printer, but I just feel like it's a lot easier to do it on the back end. Let me log back in here, okay? Because on the back end, then you can actually do the testing, right? You need to test to make sure that the terminal is communicating with the printer. Now, the printer has to be connected to the same network as the POS, all right? And again, it's going to be connected to the router. So it can be an Ethernet printer connected to the router. It could be a Wi-Fi printer connected to the router. That's not a problem. We're going to go to settings and printers here. Printer setup. And like I say, what I like about this, number one, is it needs to be on the same network, because an IP address, if you're not familiar with that, this is kind of a number that identifies each device in the network. Okay, that identifies them by this number. This is kind of like the network name, the sub network, and all that stuff, right? So one of the things that you can do here is you can what's known as pinging the printer. Pinging means that this terminal is going to send that IP address a message saying, "Hey, are you on this network?" And it's going to respond, "Yes, I am." Then you've got connectivity. All right. Now, the reality is that if you are going to use an external printer, when you set it up, you're going to have to use a computer, obviously, because you're setting up in the network. You can also actually just do a test printout on the computer, and you'll see whether it is on the network or not. Okay. Normally, this is your port number, command type. You always want to leave this, and then you're going to label, print local transaction. Online transaction, we're in the process of adding online ordering. We already have a platform. We're just kind of doing the last adjustments. Or open the cache drawer. Really, this is the only settings that I normally do when it's a network printer. So I think it's a little bit easier to manage or to set up on this end. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about payment methods. Okay, a couple of things about payment methods. I mentioned that we go to configuration here and settings, store settings. Okay. All right. I mentioned you can establish your global age restriction for the store. Okay. And that means that whenever you create a new age restricted product, it's going to automatically default to these values for the customer and the employee age restriction. But as I mentioned earlier, also, you're going to be able to actually modify that at the individual product level if need be. Okay. But let's focus on the payment settings right now. So you need to, first of all, if you are going to accept EBT or check, you need to enable them here. Okay. But that's not the only thing you need to do. Okay. Once you enable those there, on the back end, you need to go to POS configuration and go to payment method. Okay. And here's where you're going to actually modify. So for example, if you do accept checks, you still need to go in here and make it active. Okay. You can choose whether, if you're already using cash discount or upcharge, you can choose whether, the check payment method is going to be acceptable there. The other thing I want to show you here is once you create this, you are able to create, non-traditional payment methods. All right, such as Venmo or Cash App, as you can see here. Okay. Now, the system is not going to actually process these. Okay. You still need to use the app to process, but the purpose of this is you be able to categorize your payments. So again, for for report purposes and things like that, it'll just be easier for you to see how your payments are coming in. All right. And then just want to show you on the POS itself. Okay. You go to settings and you go to pay method. Now, one thing that's important here, when you do set up cash discount, if you have cash discount, okay, you're going to be able to disable cash discount here. The surcharge, this needs to be set up by your reseller as well. If you do want to charge, well, if you actually want to do cash discount or surcharge, that needs to be set up by your reseller. But you, as far as cash discount, you have the ability to disable it at any time. Okay. And then you can actually disable, and this would apply to the terminal only. You can disable some payment methods from a specific terminal if you don't want that terminal to accept, certain payment methods. All right. All right. Let's look at the loyalty then. All right. I mentioned that the system comes with a loyalty system built in. All right. Again, you're going to modify it. You go to configuration, settings, you go to store settings, you edit here, you're going to go to loyalty. And what you can do here is you can set your ratio of how many points are generated by a purchase and how many points are required to redeem a purchase. In the case of this store, I've got a 10-to-1 ratio. So for every 10 cents, generates 1 point, and then 1 point is worth 1 penny. So you're pretty much giving your clients 10% back, cash back, so to speak. All right. Once you configure that. So that can only be configured here on the web portal. This cannot be configured on the terminal itself. Okay. On the terminal itself, what you can do is you can actually manage your customers, right? So let's go to the terminal here. Well, you can do it here as well. Let's show you both. All right. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to the customer maintenance. Okay. You got your customer database here that you can utilize to import if you wanted to. Okay. It's pretty simple. And here you can manage it. Remember, one of the other features and I haven't mentioned this yet, one of the other features that the customer database brings is the ability for you to provide store credit to each one of your customers. Okay. But in terms of loyalty, you can manage loyalty here. You can actually adjust the value. You can give points if you wanted to. All right. Now, the system does not communicate with the clients directly, like through email and things like that. All right. But because you can export your whole database in Excel, then you can use Microsoft Mail Merge to go ahead and send out emails and things like that. All right. The other thing you can do here as well is you can view the customer's account. Do they have any credit? How much do they owe? Okay. So you can view that here real quick. Wait, one thing I did not. Okay. So you can actually look at the transactions, for example. Okay. Things like that. All right. So let's go back to the customer here. Okay. Let me show you on the POS itself then. You got your customer database here at the top. Go to customer. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and choose the one customer I always use, which is this testing guy. See, in the front page, you've got just your personal information. Again, you can take a picture of the customer. If you're concerned about imposters and things like that, you actually have a picture registered of the customer. You go to the account tab. This is where you can actually view, the credit and manage as well. This is where you would assign credit to the merchant, okay, credit limit, and then you can view, what their standing is. You can look at the detail transactions, so you can see, when they made a sale, when they made a repayment, okay. You can also take payment with any one of the payment methods that are accepted, okay. And the second thing is you can look at your loyalty history. And let me show you. Like I don't know, maybe back in October of, let's see if I've got October. Yeah, here we go. So back in October of 2022, I actually gave a customer 25,000 points. This customer. Right? So it's something that you can do as a merchant as well. All right. Okay, so I wanted to show you that. Um, all right, let's go ahead and move on to, let's see, we got loyalty, payment methods, gift cards. Okay, so we're going to look at this on the store portal. So our system does have a local gift card system built in. Okay, it's actually going to generate a barcode, okay, which you can print and then stick onto if you want a card or certificate, anything that you want on there, and scan it every time the customer comes in. It's going to keep track of that of you know the balances and things like that. Now, this is only going to work within Sound POS. Okay. Um, if you need something, you can export the data as well. If you need to have a type of a vendor-based gift card, our system does work, but it depends on which vendor you're going to be using. Right. So again, you'd have um, to speak to your processor and see what vendors they offer, and they'll know whether it's compatible with our system or not. All right. Um, Pay in and pay out. Want to talk a little bit about that. Okay. So let me just pull up a store. You can do a time frame here. I'm going to go a couple of months back here. I should have a couple of pay in, pay out. Yeah, because I do the like the lotteries, like I said. All right, pay in, pay out. We got some items on here. Let's go to the second page. Okay, you can export your pay in, pay out report if you actually go to reports as well. Okay, so this is kind of all your pay in, pay out within the time frame. And like I said, you can create a specific category for pay in or pay out. All right. And then one other thing that I want to mention in terms of your initial configuration is your cloud synchronization. So the system normally will, when you run a transaction, it'll send that transaction instantly. It'll actually record on your back end. You go to the web portal and you go to reports under transactions, you'll see the transaction immediately. But I haven't run any transactions today, but you'll see as soon as I do, we'll come back here and you'll be able to see it on here. And then you're going to be able to actually see the receipt even. Okay. For those of you who do signature capture on the payment device, I think I just got knocked out. Yeah. Go ahead. Log back in while I do this. For those of you who do signature capture on the device itself, you're going to be able to see the signature on the receipt when you pull up a copy of that. Okay. But if you make any other major changes, let's say you add inventory or you modify pricing for inventory and things like that, then the system is set up normally to synchronize about every 5 minutes. Okay. And you can modify that. Go to settings, you go to cloud, and then you can modify how often you want the large data to synchronize. And we do this by design. Some people maybe have a metered connection or maybe don't have such a good connection. But if you do make a change which you need immediate effect, then you go to any one of the terminals and you click on sync, and it should upload the information. All right, any major changes that you made on the back end. The other thing is that you can also see when was the last time that the unit synchronized, and you can tell it whether you want it to warn you or not if it hasn't synchronized in the last hour or so. And you can change this again to longer durations if you need it to. Okay, so that's how you would do the synchronization. All right. Okay, so we're going to move on to a different section, a different segment, which is your discount and pricing. And we're going to do it in both the terminal and on the back end. Let's start here on the back end. Okay, on the terminal, sorry. First thing I want to share with you is your global price change tool. Okay, this allows you to change pricing for your products at 3 different levels. You can change pricing for the whole inventory, for a specific category, or for a specific item. Okay, so let's go ahead and just to show you, choose my whole inventory. And then you can adjust the price in different ways. Okay, you can actually set the price total to a specific dollar amount. So let's say that I'm at the dollar store and we've got a 20% inflation. Now everything is $1.20. I can just go to set price to and put $1.20 for everything. And every item will cost that much. Or you can increase or decrease by percentage for the whole inventory. The second price adjustment is to either adjust your profit or your gross margin by percentage. Okay. And then the third one is to either round the price up or round the price down. And you can choose 0.95, 0.99, or 0.0. Okay, so very important tool. See on here. Let me just go on here to POS. Pricing, okay, customer. Okay. All right, so that's one thing I want to show you on there. All right. The other thing is special pricing. This is what you will utilize to conduct sales. Now you got 3 different kind of sales that you can conduct. So I'm going to show you here on the portal, on the terminal, I'm sorry, and then I'll show you on the portal as well. All right. So you can actually conduct a let's see here. Okay. You can actually conduct a sales, your standard sale, specific start date, end date, okay, time, and then you can choose to either sell by price or by percentage off, okay. You can do bulk pricing, which is your, wholesale pricing. So you can say, hey, if you buy, 6, you put 5 on here, not less than 5, then I'll give you a discount. And it can be, again, either by sales price or by percentage off, okay. We are about to add a feature that's known as bulk pricing reset. And the reason why we're doing that is because, let's say you want to do BOGO, okay, 2 for 1, which is basically 50% off, all right? But you want the third item to go back to the regular price, and you're going to be able to choose reset as an option. And then your third item is actually going to go to the regular price. And then the third option for sales would be your time-based pricing, which is your regular sales. You can choose, an item to be sold every Thursday, to be on sale every Thursday from opening to close. Let's say that for a convenience store, I get my milk shipments on Friday. So Thursdays, I want to go ahead and try to get rid of all the product that's is about to expire. And I go ahead and run a sale on it. And that sale is going to conduct itself until you actually delete it from the system, just as with bulk pricing. Okay. Now let me show you on the web portal side how you do that. All right, you're going to go to special pricing. Okay. Choose your store, and then you have the 3 methods here, right? Your standard sale, your bulk pricing sale, or your time-based. Okay, it's a little easier here if you want to choose products too, to be honest with you. Okay, because when you choose, add new, you can go to choose, and you can choose a whole, your whole inventory, or you can choose, by category, for example. You can't do that on the terminal itself. On the terminal, you have to go choosing one product at a time. So just be aware, if you're going to conduct a sale on a broad range of products by category or your whole inventory, you may want to set it up here because it's going to be a lot quicker to choose the products that are going to be on sale. Okay. All right. Going back to the terminal, there's one more one pricing item that I want to mention, which is your price level. Now, your price level is what you may use for like veterans or special groups that receive a discount, that you want them to receive a discount. The only requirement for price level is that the person who's receiving the discount needs to be registered in the customer database. Okay, so that's really critical. Now, you can register them at the time of ringing them up. The system only requires for I think the last name or the first name or one of the two. So you're gonna be able to ring them up, and I'll show you when we're on the sales screen very easily. And then as you can see, you can do the whole inventory. You can do a price range, whatever you want. You can actually, apply it any way that you want it. So I can go to edit and say discount. Okay, I'm going to enable this. Add apply. You can choose all your categories on here. Price range, whatever you'd like on there. Okay. All right. So that's in terms of pricing. And you do have price level on the back end as well. It's under the actual customer database here. Go to price level and you can establish it here as well. Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about your reports. Okay. So you've got reports that are on the terminal, right? And you've got reports that are here on the web portal. So if you go to the reports on the terminal, which is just, I showed you this before, just want to reiterate, any transaction reports that you pull on the terminal are only going to include transactions from this terminal. You do have access to other transactions if you want to run a void or if you want to complete a transaction, you'll have access to that on the sales screen. But on the reporting side, this only pertains, transaction details only pertains to the transactions that were run on this terminal. If you want to view all the transactions run on every terminal, then you have to go here on the web portal. Okay. Now there are some pre-established reports here on the portal, like your bestsellers, and you can choose a time frame for that. Your product's never purchased. Again, you can choose a time frame for that. If you do establish a low stock threshold, then any product that reaches that threshold is going to be listed here automatically. You can email reports. You can email reports, and then the system is going to register who received the report and which report they received. But your bulk of the reports are going to be here under the transactions dashboard. Okay, so I just want to do a 2-month time frame here. So this way you're going to see all the reports, all the transactions that were run starting July 11th, right? You got them here at the bottom. I go ahead and expand to 100, so I have all of them listed here, so that the pricing reflects all of them listed here. If they were, sold to a registered customer, it'll actually list the customer on here. Okay. The nice thing about this, though, is that you can see a lot of information here, right? Now, one thing is, our system does not work currently. We're in the process of integrating, but doesn't currently work with any delivery services. But you can label an order if it's going to be delivery or pickup or dine-in or takeout. Okay, so you are able to do that. And then, like I showed you before, then under here you can see your receipts. You can see the detail of the transaction. Okay, and you can see the payment method. So in this case, our system does support multiple tenders. It's not going to print out, if you have three people who are paying, it's not going to print out 3 receipts and calculate that. That calculation you'll have to do manually. But it does accept, multiple payments. So you can do, if it's 3 credit cards, you'll be able to run 3 credit cards. Or if it's, loyalty, account credit, and cash, and it'll register it on here. Okay. And it also registers, of course, on the receipts. But the bulk of your report, your reports are actually up here. You got your Excel reports listed here, and then you get your PDF reports here. Okay, and each report comes in 2 versions. You got your detailed version and your total version. So just to show you for the transactions report what the difference is between the detailed and the totals version. Let's go ahead and download that. Okay, this is going to be for the time frame that I chose, which is 2 months. So this report shows you all the items that were purchased for each product. Okay, or for each transaction, I should say. I'm sorry. Regardless of whether the item generated revenue or not. So as you can see, for this transaction is a hot dog, right? I track the inventory through sausage and bun. And then I add relish, which doesn't cost anything. I add chili, which costs 50 cents. So you can see in very much detail, right? All the transactions, right? And all of the products that were sold for each transaction. Now, if you need access to a report that's more summarized, then you do the totals report. Now, this report is only going to contain a single line entry per transaction. It's not going to include any of the products, but it is going to include all of the payment information. And of course, the transaction information, like when it was run and things like that. All right. You can see it here. And also, it's going to include your totals at the bottom. Now, if you need a copy of this report that's not modifiable, obviously an Excel file is, you've got all the same reports in PDF. So you can export. It'll contain the same exact information. Okay, so we got it here. You got all your transactions, again, single line, and your totals all the way at the bottom here. Okay, so you'll be able to email that and be confident that nobody's going to, modify your numbers or fudge your numbers. All right. All right. So I wanted to show you that in terms of the reports. So let's go to the sales screen here on the POS. I have to log back in, yeah. Okay. I got 158. Why don't we do something, right? Let's go ahead and take that 5-minute break. Got 158. We'll come back at 103. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to the 5-minute break, and I'll see everybody at 103, and then we can finish up with the sales screen, which is the last component. So 104. Okay. I'll see you then. All right, welcome back. Hope you had a chance to stretch your legs. All right, so we were going to go into the actual sales screen. Let me share that with you here. Let me connect. What? Oh, I didn't request. Okay. We're gonna go into the actual sales screen here. And then go over some of the components on here. Okay. All right. Let's go to sales. So if you've got a countertop unit, it'll look like this. If you've got a handheld unit, then you're gonna see this side of the screen, and then you have to click on the little toggle, the shopping cart toggle icon on the bottom to see this side of the screen. Okay. And of course, your buttons are going to be broken up into more screens. All right. So the first thing is inventory. By the way, if you are using a scanner and you scan an item that's not in inventory, the system will automatically prompt you whether you want to add it to inventory or not. So you can add it right at the time of sale. If you want to add it manually, just go in inventory. You can do a query if you don't have a scanner, for example, or you can add the product quickly here. Just a couple of things that you're not going to be able to add if you add the product quickly, like inventory numbers and things like that. You have to go back and adjust that later on, but at least it allows you to add the item, so you don't have to add, most of the information on here. Okay. The other thing is, I mentioned that you can add a customer at the time of checkout, or you can look up a customer at the time of checkout. Okay. So it's very easy to add a customer quickly. Like I said, it's either first or last name. I think once you put the first name, it's either first one, but I think only one of the two is required. Okay. Um, the other thing that I want to show you about when you're querying a customer, an existing customer, is you can input any string of characters that's contained within a field. So for example, the name. I shared with you that one of the customers that I like to use is the testing guy. So I can actually find testing guy if I just query ing. Okay, so let me go ahead and query ing, and it'll come up with a testing guy. Okay, or you can query the last four of the phone number, or if you have any notes that you've added, maybe you've added something unique in the notes, you can actually query them through the notes. Okay, so very, very easy. And once you actually find the customer and you add them, right, or to the order, okay, you're gonna actually see the customer displayed here. So the name, if they receive any type of a discount, you'll see that here as well. Okay. Then the next button, if you're familiar with it, I mentioned that we're not currently affiliated to any delivery service such as Dashboard or DoorDash, I mean, or Uber Eats. Okay. But you can identify an order, whether it's going to be pickup, delivery, takeout, or dine in, right? So I've already got the customer information on here. Just say continue sale. All right. You can clear your whole shopping cart if you got anything rung up on here. So I can say, all right, let's go ahead and just add this thing. I'm going to go ahead and clear it now just by tapping on clear order. Yes. Okay. Now, this is where you can find any order that's been created, whether it be on this terminal or any other terminal. When you first tap on search orders, it's going to look for, for any orders that were created here on this terminal at first. But then you can actually just do a search. So I'm going to go back 3 months actually, because I've got an order I want you to see. You can also look at the status. Has it been paid or is it still pending? When you submit this, then it brings up, regardless of where the order was created, whether it was created at this terminal or a different terminal, regardless of that, it's actually going to be created. It's actually going to be displayed here. Okay. And then you can actually, if it was a completed order, you can actually do the refund right here. You don't have to go anywhere else. All right. If a customer walks up to the cash register and you start ringing up their order and they don't have their wallet with them, you can actually hold the order by pressing the held orders button. It'll ask you to input their name if they're not already under a customer profile, and you'll be able to bring that up. Okay. The system does allow you to apply discounts to the whole shopping cart. You can choose whether it's going to be a percentage off or cash. Okay, either one. But it also allows you to apply a discount to individual line items. Let me show you what that looks like. Let's say I want to, I'm going to sell somebody 3 Snickers bars, but I'm going to give them 50% off the first one. So what you would do is you add the first one that you want to give them the percentage off. And again, it can be either percent or cash. I'll give them the 50% off here. Okay. And then if I add any additional Snickers bars, and you'll see the the percentage off reflected on here. If I add any additional Snickers bars, then you'll see that they're going to be on a secondary line. And of course, there won't be any discount displayed. Okay. So I wanted to show you that as well. Okay. If you wanted to say, let's just say that you want to print an order before it's actually paid for. Okay. You want to first of all identify what kind of an order it is. It's going to be, I don't know, pickup. Okay. And put Caesar is going to be the name. Okay. You save it. And now you're actually going to have the ability to print if you wanted to. Okay. And you can print for local, you can print in the network, or you can email, whatever you want there. Okay. But it does give you the ability to print the order at that point in time. All right. If you wanted to do something that's well, one more thing I want to show you here on this screen, the category entry. I think I mentioned it at the beginning. When you're creating your categories, you can create a category just for the manual entry portion, which is this screen here. Okay. So you can either not choose a category, or you can choose one of the pre-established categories on here. This way, even though you input something manually, so let's say I'm going to choose groceries. I'm going to say Apple. Oh, missed all that. Excuse my come on, double P. What's the matter with fat fingers? I'll do my Apple. Okay, I'll do what the price is going to be. I don't know, $1.99. And I'm going to do one apple. Okay. You can even put notes on here. All right. So it'll actually, have that category list registered on there as well. Right. If you want to go back to the regular menu, just tap on that menu button at the top, and you'll have your items listed on there. There are some additional functions on the back end here. You can open your drawer manually, for example, lock the screen. You can create tax exemption for the whole shopping cart, print here, run a refund and so forth, right? So some other functions there as well. So let me show you what I want to do is I want to run a transaction so you can see how attributes and modifiers work. And remember, the difference between attributes and modifiers is that for attributes, it can only be one value for that specific attribute, like size and color. So I mentioned that, for the vape pens, right? If I go to cigarettes, for the vape pens, instead of having to input, 60 items, because this vape pen comes in 20 flavors and 3 different sizes, and you can barely see there, but it's a total of 155 items. It's because of the color of the icon and the size of the icon, right? So if the combinations of size and color had a scanner or a barcode, I should say, and you scan it, it's going to automatically add it on here. Okay. If it doesn't have a barcode for the specific combination, just a barcode for the general one, you're going to get a menu to choose the combination. Or if you tap on the actual item, you're going to get that same menu. So let's take a look at it. I tap on that. So as I move through the different combinations, right now it's set for grape 2 ounce, right? I've got 25 of those items in stock, and the grape 2 ounce costs $10.99. If I change it to grape 4 ounce, I have 20 of those items in stock. And now that costs $19.99. And the same thing will happen as you move across the different flavors and sizes and the combination you're going to be managing there. And this is the way that it would look on the actual shopping cart. You would have the vape pen at the top, but the actual item is on the secondary line. So that's the way that an attribute works. You can also see it, for example, for shirts. If you sell garments, for example, sometimes they'll have, a single barcode regardless of the size. Let's say for the Reebok exercise tee, I don't have a barcode for, small, medium, large, extra large. So it's just one barcode for the shirt. Again, you get prompted here, all right, which size it is. And I don't manage pricing here at with the attributes. I manage it on the front end. It's $19.99, right? But if I do add an extra large one, of which I only have 9, now that's going to add $10 to the purchase. So instead of $19.99, it's actually going to be $29.99. So that's the way that attributes work. Another example of attributes, if you've got fountain drinks, for example, you may not want to add, a small, medium, large, extra large. You got your basic price for the fountain drink, right? Which is small. But if you add medium, it's going to add a quarter. If you add large, it's going to add 50 cents. Okay. But kind of the same way that you saw with the shirt. Okay. Now let's switch over to modifiers, which is a little different. Modifiers, I've got surf food category here. So For example, let's look at the hot fudge sundae. What are the modifiers here? Well, the first group there, additional sundae toppings, which is that modifier group, is normally the items that it doesn't come with that you can add as an option. Okay, so I can add caramel and I can add nuts. The second group there, and you can change the order in which it displays as well. The second item here, sundae toppings, are the ones that it comes with. So I would use this to hold stuff, right? I don't want cherry. I do want hot fudge, sorry, but I don't want whipped cream. And in terms of caramel, hey, I can add, more than just one portion of caramel or more than one portion of nuts if you wanted to. And this is what it would look like on the shopping cart. Now, if you do have a kitchen printer, just so you're aware, this is what's going to print in the kitchen printer. It won't print the pricing. Okay, it'll just print this side. Now, I want to show you the hot dogs because it's a little different. And this also goes to a feature that we're going to be adding pretty soon within the next couple of weeks. All right. So the way that you're going to keep track of inventory for hot dogs obviously isn't by the item itself, a hot dog, because normally the hot dogs are packaged in sausages and buns separate. So you want to actually keep track by the sausage and bun. Right now, the way the system is set up, right? If I add a hot dog, I'm going to have to manually add a sausage and a bun, which is going to deduct from the inventory for each specific item for the sausage and the bun. Okay. But what we're going to be adding in the next couple of weeks is you're going to have the ability to choose for these items to be added automatically without prompting the sausage and the bun. So they wouldn't even appear on here. Okay. Or if they appear, they're going to already appear with whatever pre-established number you set. You won't be able to modify it. Okay. And then you got your regular stuff, right? So the stuff that it comes with would be the hot dog sauces. So I can say, I don't want any ketchup on this one, but I want to add relish for free and I want to add chili for 50 cents. Okay. So that's the way that it would look like on the system. Okay. All right. So to finish up on here, just want to show you on the payment side. Okay. I mentioned a couple of things. Well, you know what? Let me go ahead and log in as my testing guy profile, which logged me out when I did one of the transactions there. So let me log in for testing guy, and everything now is going to be discounted, right? When I go to pay, because testing guy does have a credit account, and because testing guy does have loyalty points as well, you'll see that those two options are available. As I said, you can use Venmo and Cash App. You need to process this through the app, but you'll be able to at least register. Okay. And I mentioned also that you can do multiple payments, right? So let's say that in the case of this client, he wants to charge part of it. He wants to use part of the loyalty points that he has. So when you choose loyalty, the system is going to display the account information for that individual. So they've got 5,200 points. So they'd be able to pay $52.06. Okay. But let's say that I'm only going to charge $5 in loyalty points here. Okay. All right. So it discounts that from the total. All right. And let's say that the second option I want is going to be my account. So I want my credit account. So when I tap on it, same thing, it's going to show me my credit account information. What is my max credit, the balance that's outstanding, and what I have available. Let's say I want to charge $15 to my credit account here. Okay. And now the difference, I'm just going to go ahead and pay in cash. All right. So I go here, cash is selected. I'll say pay. Okay. And it'll take payment for cash. All right. Once that's done, now I've got the option. Do I want to print the receipt? Do I want to email the receipt? Do I want to do both? If I choose email, because I'm under this customer's profile, it's going to pre-populate the email address, but you can modify it if you needed to. Okay. So I'll go ahead and send it. And that's it. You're done with the transaction. And like I said, because this is immediate, log me out of here. Let me log back in. Because the transaction information is sent immediately, now I can go back to the store, log into the store, and look at the transaction dashboard and the reports, and that transaction is going to be there. Okay. And it shows me the 3 forms of payment. I can look at the receipt if I needed to. So this pretty much happens immediately. Okay, once once the transaction goes through and it's paid off, it means that this has already been uploaded on the cloud. Okay. All right. So with that, let's see. Do we have any questions on the system? I don't believe we do. Okay. Nope, I'm not seeing any questions. So if you do have any questions, please go ahead and look at the QA section. All right, Phil, I see that you're raising your hand. I can you input the question here under the Q&A section here? There's a Q&A section right here, Phil, for Zoom. Give you a minute here, see if you can put it on there. Entering just from barcode and it won't scan after entered. What is, I'm sorry, Phil, what is SHUS? I don't know what shus from barcode is. Um, oh, okay, SKUs for the barcode. All right, so if you're entering the SKUs, like when you're creating the product itself, so let me show you on here. I don't actually have a scanner with me right now, but if you're actually going to catalog and you're creating an item or you're looking at an existing item, let's say whiskey doesn't have any barcodes, you should be able to scan it and it should read the data right there. That should not be a problem. Okay. Um, is it a USB barcode? I mean, does it work on its own? Like if you test it, if you open up the terminal, and you go to any other function on the terminal, you may be able to actually scan a barcode and will input that there. If it doesn't, then it might be an issue with the actual barcode compatibility, okay, with the terminal. If it does and it's continuing to do that, I would encourage them to contact our tech support team, so that they can look into that, see what's going on. Okay, but it should work. And okay, so you're doing it on the terminal itself. Let me log back in here. Okay. So give me 1 second, Bill. Phil, sorry. You go ahead and connect to the terminal. Where is it? E700. Just zoom out. All right. So if you are adding the barcode, give me 1 second while the screen comes up. Okay. Let me just zoom in. All right, so you may be adding the barcode when you go to inventory and actual products. Okay, so let's say any one of these products. Let me see. Let me just pull up an actual product, milk or vitamin 3. So you should be able to just go to more SKU and just go ahead and scan. Now, what I did is I activated the camera scanner, which you can scan with the camera, but you should be able to just, right there use the scanner and so is this a screen that you're using, Phil? If it is the screen that you're using and it reads it, when you click on the save button, it doesn't add it on there. If that's the case, then Phil, I need you to contact our tech support team, all right, to see what's going on. Okay, if it's not adding, please contact the tech support team to see what's going on, all right? And they'll escalate it in case it's an issue with the software itself, but I haven't heard of that issue before, all right? And just to in case you don't have the number handy, remember it's 888-263-5661, or you can just write an email to support@soundpayments.com. Okay. And Phil, if you do need to, write to me, that's my email address as well, Caesar.r@soundpayments.com. Any other questions? Okay. All right, Phil. Thank you again for joining. And again, if you want to look at the recording, it should be by the end of the day, it should be on our YouTube channel. All right, just go to YouTube and look for Sound Payments, and you'll see it there. And as I also mentioned, look at the short section. It's got some really good features on there. But Phil, I'll be on the lookout for your call to tech support. Okay. Thank you again, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of the day.